After the Sterling bankruptcy, I begged my fiancé to inject bailout capital into my family's company. He not only refused, he turned around and announced his engagement to the department beauty in spectacular fashion. With nowhere left to turn, my Adrian stepped forward, offering every dollar he owned as bailout capital for Sterling. But we had already missed the window. Sterling still filed for bankruptcy. The blow was too much for Mom. She jumped from a building. Even so, I remained grateful to Adrian and gave myself to him in marriage. 3 years later, at the department beauty's birthday gala at the Voss estate, I accidentally overheard a conversation between her and Adrian. "Adrian, you crushed Sterling so my family could win the bid. When Summer finds out, she won't hate you? As long as it's for you, I'll pay any price. Cameron only lost a company and a mother. As long as you're happy, I've already sentenced myself to life with Summer to make it up to her." Ice flooded my veins. 3 years of marriage had been a scheme all along. The woman Adrian truly loved had always been the department beauty. I turned and walked away. Since he was so devoted, I would give them what they wanted. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening. I stood in the service stairwell, shivering. Though Adrian and Brielle kept their voices low, every word detonated like thunder in my skull. "Adrian, I owe you huge for this. Whatever you need later, just ask. If Summer blames you, push it onto me." Brielle's voice was soft and sticky, even the way she clasped Adrian's hand graceful. Adrian's ear tips flushed crimson, his volume dropped to a whisper, his gaze at Brielle tender enough to drown in. "I'd do anything for you, even give my life. Summer won't blame me. I married her. Even if every day beside her sickens me, knowing you're happy is enough." I froze, feeling a blade twist inside my chest. "Is he good to you?" Adrian's voice was hoarse, his face lined with heartbreak, an expression he had never once shown me. I used to think he was naturally cold, incapable of empathy. Turns out I'm simply the one who never stirred it. Brielle slowly slid her hand from Adrian's returned grip and smiled sweetly. "He treats me well. I know being with someone you don't love is torture. If it ever hurts too much, find me, anytime. I'll always listen." Adrian's whole face reddened. Finally he gave a small nod. Cold spread through every limb. Brielle's game was top tier, marrying my fiancé Julian while keeping Adrian on her hook. And both men drank it up willingly. I thought I'd storm over, slap them, scream, demand to know who gave them the right to obliterate my family for their own gain. But my feet weighed 1,000 pounds, I couldn't move. Unable to watch their love play, I turned back to the private lounge. I sank into an unnoticed corner. The room's revelry felt galaxies away. Soon Brielle and Adrian slipped in, one after another. Adrian habitually sat beside me while Brielle walked into a chorus of cheers. Julian crowned her with the diamond tiara, kissed her cheek, and declared, "Happy birthday, babe. I'll love you forever." Whoops and applause erupted. Adrian leaned to my ear and whispered, "You're not still hung up on Julian, are you?" Once, I would have thought that question meant he was jealous. Now I knew, he only feared I might steal Brielle's man. Before Dylan, I'd been the arrogant heiress who claimed whatever she wanted. But Adrian forgot. After bankruptcy, Mom's suicide, my dignity and pride died too. I gave a bitter smile. No. How could I ever be worthy? How could I compete with Brielle for any man? Julian, no. Adrian, no. Remembering Adrian's words, "The woman I married isn't you. For your happiness I could have wed a pig," I realized that to him I was no different from livestock. Adrian didn't sense my turmoil. He only squeezed my hand, fingers kneading my palm. I once believed that little gesture was ours alone. Now I knew it was his revulsion toward my body. I quietly pulled my hand free. "You all have fun, I'm tired. I'm heading home." Adrian exhaled in relief, still smiling as he nodded. Of course, only after I leave can he openly lavish Brielle with attention. But the moment I stood, a spotlight pinned me. Someone had done it on purpose. Back when I was insufferable, I'd trampled plenty of egos. Now that Sterling had fallen, plenty were eager to watch me squirm. Betrayed by my former fiancé, coveted by my own husband, every eye in the room latched onto me. Leaving would be shame, staying, agony. Well, isn't it Cameron? The cry rang out, dripping mockery. Though I'd dodged this circle for years, Adrian had insisted I come tonight, knowing full well the humiliation waiting. Yet when we'd left home he'd held my hand and murmured, "It's fine, I'm here. How stupid I was, trusting him unconditionally. In his heart my dignity meant nothing. He'd only been desperate to see Brielle. At this moment I was raw, cornered, helpless, just like when, as bankruptcy loomed, I'd begged Julian in front of a jeering crowd. Back then Adrian had appeared like a savior, pulling me from that pit. I thought it was rescue. It turned out to be another abyss. Brielle glided over, took my hand, and beamed. "Stop teasing Summer." I'm thrilled she could come. Even without those words I caught her subtext. Once I'd been the sterling princess while Brielle was merely a nouveau riche climber newly admitted to these halls. Every person sneering at me now had once sneered at her. Fortunes flip in 30 years. And tonight the joke was on me. Brielle's rescue only underscored that I was no longer the glittering heiress. My fists clenched so hard my arms shook. Before tonight I might have felt Adrian at my back and stood fearless, but now I knew even he belonged to Brielle. He would let her mock and slice me as she pleased. Whenever there were two choices, Brielle was always Adrian's first. I forced a thin smile and dredged up every scrap of courage I had left. "Brielle, happy birthday. I'm not feeling well, so I'll head out." As I spoke, I started to tug my arm free, but Brielle suddenly pitched backward with a shriek. Julian and Adrian lunged at the same instant, shielding her before she ever touched the floor. Once she'd steadied herself, she looked up, all wounded innocence. "Summer, I only wanted you to stay a little longer. We haven't seen each other in ages. Why did you push me on purpose? Is it still eating at you that I took your former fiancé? I thought you were over it." Julian's eyes snapped to me, lethal. "Summer, 3 years, and you still haven't changed. You dare hurt Brielle? Apologize, now." He whipped his glare toward Adrian. "Control your wife. If anything happens to Brielle, I swear I won't let either of you off the hook." Adrian's gaze hardened on me. "Summer, apologize. No room for argument." A stunt this cheap was obvious to anyone with eyes, yet not a single person here spoke up for me. One of them had been my childhood sweetheart, the other my husband by law. They were happy to be puppets in Brielle's show, happy to bow to her every whim. The pain felt like a vice crushing my lungs. "Mom, why didn't you take me with you when you left? Then I wouldn't be standing here alone, duped, cornered, living like a sewer rat." I laughed at myself, stared straight at Adrian, and felt my vision blur despite my best effort. You actually want me to say sorry?" Even though he could see Brielle had staged the whole thing, Adrian didn't hesitate. "You ruined the moment. Don't make it worse." A spasm shot through my temples, the ache spread outward until every limb throbbed. I'd have hoped he'd at least flinch, that some shred of conscience might flicker across his face. But to Adrian, I was nothing more than trash. "It's not the old days, princess. Swallow your pride and apologize. Yeah, Brielle stuck up for you, show some gratitude. Why didn't you follow your mom to the grave? Deadbeats like you are parasites." The last line detonated in my skull. I saw crimson, snatched the champagne bottle off the table, and hurled it. My aim failed. The bottle exploded against the wall in a storm of crystal shards. The man who'd cursed my mother went paper white, frozen mid-breath. One sliver of glass kissed Brielle's cheek. She shrieked, a bead of scarlet blooming against her porcelain skin. Adrian exploded. He seized my wrist, roaring, "Have you lost it, Summer? Trying to kill Brielle?" He'd heard every vile word the man spat. Mom was my forbidden line in the sand, he knew. Yet Brielle earns a scratch and he's ready to burn the world for her. So that's what real love looks like. A bitter laugh slipped out as tears I couldn't stop rolled down. My voice cracked. He insulted my mother. Did you even hear it? Or do you agree, I should be dead too? The room fell deathly quiet. Adrian stared, lips parted, words dying before they left his throat. I knew how pathetic I looked. No ally, no pride, only tears. Not one soul lifted a finger for me, least of all the man who once swore he'd never let me suffer a moment's hurt. I'd had enough. Adrian's voice finally softened. "Come on, just apologize to Brielle and you can go." He used to speak to me in that same tender tone, telling me he loved me, worrying about me, cherishing me, never to make me kneel in front of a crowd. My heart was ash, yet my eyes were steady. Apologize for what? For once being Julian's fiancé so Brielle could steal him? Or for lacking the talent to keep even my husband on my side? I'll say sorry when I'm dead. I stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Whatever they said about me after, I no longer cared. Back home, I drafted the divorce petition and texted Professor Vance. "Professor, I accept. the placement in Paris. I'd once been her star protege. At 22 my designs had already snagged an international gold. That single trophy was an open door. Mentors across the globe had fought to recruit me. The first time I'd planned to leave, Sterling collapsed and I stayed. The second time, Adrian talked me out of it after our wedding. Back then he'd cooed, "I can't do long distance. What if you fall for someone else? Where would I even appeal?" I'd blushed like an idiot, convinced he couldn't live without me. Truth was, he only feared what I might do to Brielle if he weren't watching. This time, I won't back down. Professor Vance was thrilled, scolding me gently that a woman needs her own empire. Independence is armor, and only the strong can stand unaided. I'd rolled my eyes at the lecture years ago, now every word tasted of salt. I typed while booking my student visa, ending the chat when she said she needed sleep. The door opened, Adrian reeked of whiskey, half carried by two buddies who glanced at me, mortified. "Sorry, sis, Adrian's wasted. Could you?" They dumped him on the couch and bolted, remembering the scene at the gala. In the past I'd have brewed his favorite hangover cure without being asked. Not tonight, he hadn't drunk for my sake. I turned to leave, but his fingers clamped around my wrist. "Summer, don't go. Summer, do you know how much I love you?" My feet froze. People say the truth slips out when you're drunk. Maybe, just maybe, he'd fallen for me without realizing. Usually when he was this far gone he murmured my name like a prayer. Then the next slurred word spilled out. "Why did you pick Julian and not me, Brielle?" I laughed at myself, a bitter pool swelling in my chest. So it had always been Brielle, never Summer. Every time we tangled together, the name on his lips had still been Brielle. I couldn't help asking the woman in the mirror, "Summer, how many more beatings will it take before you finally learn?" I flung Adrian's hand off and strode forward. I will never again wait for anyone with a heart full of hope. The next morning, knocking rattled me awake. I had deadbolted the bedroom to keep Adrian out overnight. Irritated, I got up and opened the door, meeting Adrian's bloodshot eyes. "You're applying for a student visa. Where exactly are you going?" Before I could process what he meant, he thrust his phone at me, the notification reminding me to pick up my visa. Only then did I remember that last night, while filling the form, I had automatically listed Adrian's cell. Back when we were together, he'd insisted I put his number on every document, every reservation. Back then, I'd mistaken that for fierce devotion. I'd drunk the lie that his love was real. Now I knew he just wanted a GPS tag on me. Terrified I might trouble Brielle. When I stayed silent, Adrian panicked. His fingers dug into the hollows of my shoulders as though to powder my bones. "Are you trying to slip away from me so you can punish Brielle? She only stole Julian because your family was finished, because the Sterlings were worthless to the bosses. Do you get that? They're in love, for God's sake. How long are you going to sulk? You already married me. Can't you just behave?" Watching him rage for Brielle's sake, I felt my heart icing over, one slow layer at a time. I had meant to disappear quietly, yet Adrian's words had ripped that option away. The man once famous for icy calm was now frantic over one visa text. Adrian had a gift for grinding salt into every gash on my soul. I stepped back, breaking his hold, my voice so steady it scared me. "My family's bankruptcy, wasn't that your handiwork? You crushed Sterling to elevate boss, drove my mom to her grave, then showed up wearing a superhero's mask. You dangled bailout capital like charity, only to sabotage us the moment we fought our way upright, snuffing the last spark of hope. Adrian, 3 years of lies, was it fun? Spinning me like a fool, did it amuse you?" His face blanched as he listened, mouth gaping, disbelief flooding his eyes. "Alex," he croaked. "So you know everything? No shame, no guilt, just the candor of a scheme exposed." That was what chilled me most. I asked myself why I had ever loved Adrian so blindly, for 3 whole years. If I hadn't overheard him with Brielle and traced the trail, I'd still be swallowing his fairy tale. I gave a cold laugh. "Adrian, let's get divorced." His body snapped taut. He lunged to grab me, voice soft the way it used to be. "Summer, listen, the past is the past. You still have me, don't you? I can give you back your home, your money, the life you had. Just stop hating Brielle and me, okay?" He brushed my agony aside as though I'd brought it on myself. My teeth ground so hard they squeaked. "Don't call me Summer, it makes me sick. You confuse my name with hers so often I can't tell which of us you're addressing. The past is the past? Which part, the parents I lost, or waking every day beside a man who guards against me going near his true love? What did I ever do to you two to deserve this? What crime did my mom commit?" I thought I would cry, I felt wronged, locked in the cage Adrian had built while the outside world blurred. Yet speaking the words left me eerily calm. I had already lost everything. Fear of losing more had died with the rest. Adrian stood paralyzed, still reaching. I sidestepped. I looked at him with cold clarity. I'm leaving for Paris. I won't be blinded again. My mom was hounded to death by your design. I can't make you pay, but I can refuse to stay. Let me go, before I decide we all burn together. And on the day I married you, I let go of Julian's betrayal and Brielle's theft of my fiancé. I never planned revenge on Brielle. My heart isn't as filthy as yours. No. Summer, I won't divorce you, I love you. Some madness made him say it. Once, I would have believed him, now the declaration only sickened me. I walked to the study, pulled a heavy book from the top shelf. Adrian's face turned ashen. I opened it. The pages had been hollowed out, stuffed with photos of Brielle. I spilled them across the rug, snapshots from her college years, most covertly taken, one even in a wedding gown. On the back of that shot he had written, "Grateful I saw you as a bride, even if the groom wasn't me. May your life be happy." The edges were yellowed, the gloss worn from endless fondling. So romantic, so pure, and this was the man who shared my bed. Adrian collapsed onto the carpet. When the proof is this thick, don't insult me with talk of love, even I can't stomach it. I tossed the divorce petition onto his lap. I'm gone next month. Decide before then. I turned away, taking nothing except the documents I needed. Before I married Adrian, I had owned nothing. The clothes, the jewels, all bought by him. At least we had no child, otherwise, I would have condemned an innocent. Then again, Adrian so adored Brielle, why would he risk making a baby with me? I had begged for a child, craving one blood relation left in the world. He brushed me off. Too young, too delicate for pregnancy, he claimed, professing concern. 3 years, and not a single word Adrian ever said to me had been true. I was living alone in a hotel, but I still had a little savings, not much, yet enough for daily expenses and for graduate school abroad. During those days in the hotel I was brutally clear-headed. Looking back, it seemed I always fell for men who didn't deserve it. Julian, Adrian, every one of them the same. But I would not sink into self-doubt again. I was not the one unworthy of love. Letting everything go felt better than I had imagined. That night, I stepped out of the shower to find my phone lit with missed calls, almost all from Adrian, a few from Julian. I could guess why Adrian kept ringing. As for Julian, I had no idea. Yet I had no wish to speak to either of them. I powered the phone off and slept like the dead. Next morning I met my professor. She walked me through everything I'd need for the move and handed me my student visa. Thanks to her contacts it had been processed at lightning speed. After lunch we parted, and the moment I rounded the corner I saw Adrian. He still favored head-to-toe black. Even standing still he looked like a magazine spread. I knew I had to face him, so I walked up, sampled. "Here to take me to the courthouse?" I asked, cutting off every excuse before it left his mouth. Adrian hesitated, voice still honey smooth. "Summer, I know you hate me. These days I've done nothing but think. I wronged you. I should take whatever rage you need to unload. Hit me, curse me, if it makes the anger go away, I'll bear it without a word." I laughed, sharp and thin. How generous, making me sound like a tantrum-throwing hypochondriac. We've got nothing left to say. If you're here for the divorce petition, let's go. If you're here to spout pretty lines, save your breath. I turned to leave, he caught my wrist. "I won't agree to a divorce." I looked back, eyes ice. "Relax, I'm not going to touch Brielle. You can let me walk away with a clear conscience." He should have been thrilled. He'd never have to force himself to look at a face he didn't love again. Yet excitement was the last thing on his features. Adrian bit his lip until the skin blanched. "You probably don't know that while you were gone I realized how desperately I miss you. The house is empty, but you're everywhere I turn. Summer, I think I actually fell in love with you." A declaration straight from a romance cover, delivered as though being loved by him were some rare honor. Victim turned beggar, my family ruined, my home gone, yet a scrap of kindness from them and I was expected to grovel in gratitude. I gave him a small, thin smile. "How terribly unfortunate, for you." His face drained of color, but I wasn't finished. "Since you refuse to divorce, we'll simply drag it out. You still can't marry the one you truly want. after 3 years of separation the law will end it automatically. Don't worry, I've got nothing but time. I yanked free and walked away without a backward glance. I hadn't expected him to dig in his heels. I could have contested, but I refused to waste another minute fencing with him. Men are absurd. When I loved him he wanted someone else. When I stopped loving he wanted to talk feelings. Yet feelings were the only topic permanently off the table between us. Soon I was on a non-stop to Paris. Their triangle would play out without me. I would not waste another thought on it. Once I held enough power, I would dictate every outcome. Days folded into nights, winters thawed into springs, blurring time's edges. 3 years vanished in the blink of an eye. I worked like a machine, designing whenever I wasn't collapsing into sleep. I'd lost 3 years, youth was no longer on my side, so effort had to compensate. Fortunately, talent and audacity ran in my blood, and Paris began to whisper my name. Before I even considered returning home, rumors about me ricocheted across the Pacific. I was now the jewelry couturier whose every piece was a one-of-a-kind relic coveted by every old money heiress and hedge fund wife. Occasionally my best friend slipped me gossip about Adrian. Apparently after I left he almost never surfaced at the usual parties. With the domestic market in retreat, many empires wobbled, Voss and even Blackwood teetered near bankruptcy. When Brielle begged Adrian for a bailout, he refused to write the check. My friend asked what I thought. I texted back, lying down while I watch. She teased that I must be completely over him, maybe even had a new lover overseas. I glanced around my empty apartment and sighed. When would I have time for romance? I needed 48 hours in every day. The conversation fizzled there. When my reputation was solid gold, Professor Vance told me to come home. She had a gift waiting. Yet news of my return leaked the moment my seatbelt clicked over the Atlantic. The instant I stepped into Eastbrook International, reporters ringed me like wolves, mics and cameras poised for blood. Cameron, is it true you're here to resurrect Sterling? You and Blackwood, are you still together, or is the divorce final? They say Boss stole your former fiancé. Any comment? Regarding your parents' fatal jump, was there more to the story? When Dylan struck, outsiders had raced to trample us. No one cared about the injustice we'd suffered while Voss and Blackwood buried truth beneath hush money and spin. Now, with all 3 dynasties listing toward bankruptcy and me restored to the heights, long-suppressed questions bobbed to the surface. A dozen outlets could beam my answers to 100 million viewers. I slid off my sunglasses and spotted Adrian and Julian loitering at opposite ends of the concourse, clearly unaligned but equally rattled. A sweet ribbon of satisfaction twisted through me. I faced the lenses, calm and poised, answering every barb. Sterling was sabotaged by traitors. If I failed to avenge my parents I would be an unworthy daughter. 3 years ago I served Blackwood with a divorce petition. He chose to obstruct it. I'm back to sign the final papers. Everyone knows Julian was once my fiancé, and the instant Sterling collapsed he married Brielle. Draw your own conclusions. Loan sharks threatened my life to extort my parents, hounding them until they jumped. The mastermind? My then-husband, Adrian. The swarm erupted, reporters shouted over one another, already rewriting headlines in their heads. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. The reporters scattered, and Adrian and Julian both sprinted toward me at the same time. When their eyes met, they looked equally stunned. Neither had expected the other to show up. Summer, I can forgive what you told the press, Adrian said first. Blackwood's stock is going to take a major hit, but it doesn't matter. I only want you. Julian caught my arm in the practiced grip of an old habit. Summer, we grew up together. I was forced into that engagement with Brielle, the nouveau riche climber, by my family. You know I've always loved you. Before I could answer, the two of them were throwing punches. Brielle darted in from nowhere, she must have overheard them, and came at me with claws out. I planted a heel in her stomach. She landed on her rear and burst into theatrical sobs. Adrian, honey, Summer kicked me. Both men glanced back at the same instant. The disgust on their faces was unmistakable. I was genuinely curious, what on earth had happened in only 3 years? Or, more precisely, what had Brielle done to exhaust the patience of 2 men who had once adored her? When no one bought her act, Brielle clenched her back teeth and muttered, as though reminding herself, hubby, Adrian and I are just alumni, nothing more. I'm faithful to you. Please don't divorce me. Julian ignored her and rounded on Adrian. Weren't you the one who loved Brielle most? Fine, take her back. Just give Summer to me. Adrian refused outright. I watched Brielle's hysterics and the two men's dogfight with icy detachment, then turned and walked away. Professor Vance was waiting. I wouldn't waste another second on trash. When I reached her, she had tears in her eyes and kept repeating that I had finally grown up. Sam, she pressed a key into my hand. I caught my breath. How could I forget that key? She told me it was the last thing Mom left for me. If I kept chasing my dream and put my talent to work, the company she had secretly bought for me could be relaunched. At last I understood why she had always nudged me in that direction. She had been guarding my dream all along. Warmth flooded my chest. After she finished explaining, she left. I started recruiting talent. Over the years I'd earned more than enough capital to resurrect the sterling name. Within 6 months my firm went public. With my reputation and former contacts, business soared. As for the Blackwood, Voss, and Dillon clans, Blackwood's stock had cratered after my statement. Their group was already teetering, and the scandal became the final straw. Voss had long been a hollow shell. No wonder they dumped me the instant sterling collapsed and rushed to cling to the boss. And Voss himself was pure nouveau riche, zero business sense, zero experience, throwing money around blindfolded until every cent evaporated. Julian, terrified Brielle would drag his family under, forced her into a divorce. Now I could crush them all with a flick of my finger. When my secretary brought the acquisition files, I barely lifted an eyelid. Shave another 20% off the price. These 3 companies don't deserve a penny more. She bowed and left. I twirled a pen, bored, and glanced out the window. Julian and Adrian stood at the building entrance, blocked by security. I looked down at them, contempt flooding me. Still, I called my secretary and told her to let them up. For them to come begging proved their families could bend like reeds. As for Brielle, after the Voss crime surfaced, creditors swarmed. Her father simply threw her to the loan shark debt pack. She was probably working the docks district by now. Julian spoke first, just as I had once begged him. Summer, for the sake of our childhood, inject some capital, please? If we're bought out, Voss will never rise again. I leaned back in my chair, indifferent. We grew up together. I didn't raise you. Why should I bail you out? 6 years ago Julian had thrown those exact words at me, voice haughty, eyes disdainful. Now his face turned the color of ash. He couldn't muster a reply. If I were you, I'd take the buyout money, find a quiet hole, and keep my tail tucked, instead of disgracing myself in public. I waved, and security hauled him out. Soon only Adrian and I remained. He didn't ask for capital or favors, he simply studied me. Summer, let's stop fighting, okay? I've waited 3 years, and you're finally back. We'll have children if you want, or you can work if you prefer, just don't leave me. I frowned. The man clearly couldn't process human speech. I'd lost count of the times I'd rejected him, but it never sank in. I curved my lips in a smile. You want my forgiveness? He nodded, solemn. My gaze turned razor sharp. Then die, the way Mom did. I meant every syllable. I wasn't saint enough to live with the man who had murdered my parents. Besides, I no longer loved him. Adrian froze. I sneered. If you can't show me that, we're done talking. He gave a soft, accepting laugh. I get it. Maybe I only wanted to test whether you could forgive me. I know what I did is unforgivable, but I clung to a sliver of hope. You've changed, Summer, and I know I deserve it. Sorry to disturb you. I turned away, not moved, simply tired of the sound of his voice. That evening my phone lit up with a message from Adrian. If there's a next life, promise you'll never meet a man like me. Late that night the news broke. Adrian had died on impact in a car crash. I merely swiped past the headline. There are no unfinished love stories here, only people reaping what they sowed. Rotten fruit falls on its own. Karma needs no helping hand. And my new life is just beginning. Thanks for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and share with friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more gripping tales. See you next time.